Richard Bell's work, I Didn't Do It, was made in 2002 at the height of the reconciliation movement, when people were sort of asking for an apology, particularly to the stolen generations and the past policies of the Australian government that have left this huge legacy of hurt and violence on many Aboriginal communities. And it talks to some of the opinion at that time, where even the Prime Minister of Australia was saying, there's nothing to apologise for, I am not sorry. Why should we have to apologise for something that we did 50 years or 100 years ago? The debate that went along with what was going on at that time took aim at that ideology and looked at the idea that Australians are very happy to take ownership of all of the good things that have happened in Australian history. But these negative aspects, and particularly aspects to do with Indigenous Australia and Aboriginal people, is something that the society as a whole has a sense of forfeiture of ownership of. There's no sort of sense of responsibility without people kind of taking ownership of them and acknowledging the hurt that these have caused to Aboriginal communities. It's very hard to move forward in a productive sort of way. At the moment, things are seen as being, Aboriginal problems. They're not seen as a wider Australian problem or a problem with society in general, which they definitely are. Tony Albert's work looks at the apology in particular, and Tony is a younger generation artist, born in 1981, originally from Cardwell and trained mostly in Brisbane. And he worked a lot with Richard, so a lot of his work's dialogue with Richard, Vernon and other artists in the Proper Now collective in particular. His work is work of found objects, particularly what's now called Aboriginalia, or the kitsch representations of Aboriginal people that tourists buy and take around the world, and that kind of in a way informs what they know or think about Aboriginal people. In the installation, those works are used to spell out the word sorry, quite simply. And it was made after he watched the apology with his good friend Arthur Pambagan, a man that we recently lost, who was in his 80s. And through all of those government policies that they were talking about in the apology, he'd lived through all of them, and they directly affected every day of his life. Tony watched the apology with Arthur, and afterwards he asked him, what do you think about that? And Arthur responded something like, that's good enough for me, in the sense that it showed a willingness to sort of move forward to take that responsibility and to try to make a better future for Aboriginal Australians and non-Aboriginal Australians. But in this exhibition, Tony's work's installed backwards, and that's to ask people to ask themselves questions. The first obviously would be, why is sorry spelt backwards? And then hopefully from there people will ask, what does sorry mean? Why were they saying sorry? And what does that mean for Aboriginal people going into the future? What has changed for Aboriginal people? So trying to get people to ask those questions of themselves and of their society in general.